Welcome back, everyone. I'm really excited to dive into this high-yield exam preparation explainer with you today. As you prep for your bachelor's level anthropology exams, we are going to dissect, literally, the single most powerful tool our species has ever developed. Yep, we are talking about human language. Today, we're going to unpack this brilliant, deeply complex, and honestly, sometimes kind of chaotic system that lets us share the actual contents of our minds with each other. So grab your notes, get settled, and let's get into it. But hey, before we get completely bogged down in the dry mechanics of linguistics, I want us to take a step back and just appreciate the grand, really mysterious narrative of human evolution here. Charles Darwin actually speculated way back in 1871 that our earliest ancestors might have developed musical notes and rhythms just to charm one another. It's such a beautiful thought, isn't it? It's a great reminder that language didn't just magically appear in a textbook, it evolved within social, living, breathing communities. Keep that evolutionary context in the back of your mind as we review. All right, here is our roadmap for today's review. We're covering the evolutionary origins of language, the uniqueness of human speech, phonetics, specifically sounds versus spelling, morphology, and finally syntax, where we look at how we structure thought. Okay, let's kick things off with Section 1, the evolutionary origins of language. So as anthropologists, we face a massive, undeniable hurdle right out of the gate. There is zero fossil record of human speech. Soft tissue doesn't fossilize, and obviously early hominids weren't leaving behind audio recordings for us. Because we lack that direct physical evidence, scientists rely on a few key theories. Historically, a lot of cultures believed in a divine source, the idea that language was just a sudden gift from a creator. Then we have the natural sounds theories. You'll want to remember the bow-wow theory, which suggests early humans just imitated environmental sounds, and the yo-hey-ho theory, which argues language actually emerged from the grunts and groans of synchronized physical group labor. But from our perspective in evolutionary anthropology, the physical adaptation theory is absolutely critical. As humans started standing upright, our visual range expanded, and our vocal tract, specifically the larynx and pharynx, physically changed in ways that facilitated speech. Crucially, our brains became lateralized. The left hemisphere developed specialized zones for both complex vocalization and object manipulation. That perfectly connects early tool-making right to the development of speech. And finally, there's the genetic source, which argues that human babies are born with a hardwired, innate genetic capacity for language. Make sure you can clearly distinguish these theories for your exam. Moving right along to Section 2, the uniqueness of human speech. Look, animals definitely communicate to survive, no doubt about it, but human language has some very distinct defining properties. The first one is arbitrariness. In animal communications, signals are usually directly linked to the message, like a cat arches its back to show it's ready to attack, right? But in human language, there is absolutely no natural inherent link between the linguistic signifier, the sound we make, and the signified, the actual concept it represents. A woody plant with leaves is called tree in English, maram in Tamil, and arbol in Spanish. The sound itself isn't tree-like in any way. It's completely arbitrary, purely an agreement made by the culture. Next up is displacement. The big takeaway here is that animals pretty much only react to immediate stimuli. A bird gives a warning cry because the predator is right there, right then. But us humans, we can sit in a classroom today and casually discuss the Roman Empire, what we're going to eat for dinner tomorrow, or even some totally fictional civilization in another galaxy. Displacement is what allows us to detach from the immediate present and talk about things that are totally remote in time and space. Then we've got the duality of structure, sometimes called double articulation. Most animals have a fixed set of basic sounds, and they can really only use them one specific way. Humans, though, operate on two separate layers. We have this set of about 30 to 40 basic sounds, called phonemes, that are completely meaningless on their own. The sounds k, and t don't mean a thing individually. But when you layer them together following our specific rules, boom, you build the meaningful word cat. It's amazing. A handful of meaningless sounds can be infinitely rearranged to build our entire massive vocabulary. And that naturally leads us to creativity. Remember, unlike bees, who can really only dance to talk about where the nectar is, or dolphins, who use a pretty limited repertoire of clicks and whistles to say the same things over and over, human linguistic creativity is literally boundless. You can instantly produce and completely understand a totally novel sentence that has never been spoken before in the entire history of the universe. From an evolutionary standpoint, that is an incredibly powerful advantage. All right, let's shift gears to Section 3, phonetics. This is all about sounds versus spelling. Now, I have to warn you right now, do not trust your eyes when you're studying the English sound system. Since we are focusing strictly on the spoken word, you have to completely divorce your mind from the written alphabet. Written English is famously, notoriously unreliable for pronunciation. Here is the numerical mismatch that causes all of our headaches. Spoken English actually has 44 distinct speech sounds, but we are out here trying to represent all of them using an alphabet that only has 26 letters. Our alphabet is just severely overburdened. Because of that, a single letter often has to juggle multiple sounds, or we have to mash combinations of letters together just to represent one single sound. This mismatch creates a frankly absurd reality for English spelling. Let's look at the letter combination O-U-G-H. We write bow, and it sounds like ow. We write cough, and suddenly, out of nowhere, we get an F sound. And then we have through, which gives us an oo sound. It is the exact same 4 letters, but 3 completely different phonetic outcomes. This right here is exactly why linguists and anthropologists have to use an internationally recognized set of phonetic symbols instead of standard alphabet letters to study speech sounds. Okay, Section 4, Morphology, how we actually go about building our words. So now that we've got a handle on sounds, we need to look at morphemes. These are the absolute smallest grammatical units of meaning. Think of morphology as the anatomical study of how a word is structured. We broadly group morphemes into 2 main types, free and bound. A free morpheme can stand completely on its own as a word and still carry full meaning. For example, the word plant. It doesn't need anything else. A bound morpheme, on the other hand, cannot stand alone. It has to attach itself to a base word to actually make sense. Take the suffix ed in the word planted. By itself, ed means absolutely nothing, but the second it's attached to a free morpheme, it signifies the past tense. Now, when we attach those bound morphemes, which we call affixes, there is a highly testable distinction you need to master for the exam. We have inflectional affixes and derivational affixes. Inflectional affixes, they just tweak the grammar of a word that already exists, like adding an S to make boy into boys, or adding that ed for past tense. The core meaning and the part of speech stay exactly the same. Derivational affixes, though, are way more powerful. They build entirely new words, or they completely change the part of speech. If you add al to the noun nation, you derive the brand new adjective national. But hey, beyond just using affixes, human cultures are constantly rapidly expanding their vocabularies to meet new social needs, and they use other strategies to do it. I'll quickly outline 2 major ones you should know. The first is compounding. This is where we literally just smash 2 independent free morphemes together to create a new one, like taking black and board to make blackboard. The second is conversion, which I think is fascinating. This is where a word just straight up changes its grammatical class, with absolutely 0 affixes added. Think of the verb to cheat, which we just instantly convert into the noun a cheat. It is an incredibly efficient system. Which brings us to Section 5, Syntax, Structuring Human Thought. If morphology is the bricks, then syntax is the architectural blueprint of the whole building. To really grasp this, we have to clear up a major point of confusion for students. Words in sentences carry 2 distinct types of labels, formal and functional. Formal labels, like noun, verb, adjective, describe what a word inherently is. It's a category. Functional labels, like subject, predicate, object, describe the actual job that word is performing in one specific sentence. So a noun, which is a formal label, can do the job of a subject or an object, which are functional labels, depending entirely on where you place it in the sentence. Nailing down that difference is the key to analyzing sentence structures. And once you get a solid grip on subjects, verbs, objects, and complements, you realize something pretty wild. Despite the infinite, boundless creativity of human speech we talked about earlier, the English language actually relies on a definitive checklist of just 7 fundamental structural patterns. Everything we say, from the absolute simplest sentence like birds fly, which is just a subject plus a verb, all the way to complex ideas like they elected her the leader, which gives you a subject, a verb, an object, and a complement, every single one falls into one of these 7 base blueprints. So, how do humans construct those intricate, sophisticated arguments that literally build civilizations? We do it through sentence math. You start off with one independent main clause. From there, you can link it to another main clause using coordination words like and or but. That simple addition gives you a compound sentence. Alternatively, you can use subordination to attach a dependent clause, which gets you a complex sentence. By endlessly stacking and embedding these clauses, humans can communicate unbelievably nuanced relationships about cause, effect, time, and condition. Finally, Section 6, the anthropological question. We've covered the evolution, the sounds, and the architectural rules of language. But why does all this actually matter to the broader study of humanity? I want to wrap up today with a deeply provocative thought that you are very likely to see on your exam. It's known as the Sapir-Whorf hypothesis. It forces us to step back and ask, does our language simply give us handy labels to reflect a reality that already exists around us? Or does linguistic determinism mean that our specific grammar and vocabulary actually dictate and construct how we perceive the universe? Like, if a language literally doesn't have a word for a specific color, can its speakers even see it the same way we do? It is a fascinating, complex question to ponder as you hit the books for your exams. Thank you so much for joining this review session, and best of luck exploring the incredible anthropology of language.